All right, everyone, always remember, it is real socialism. Bernie Sanders had a healthcare plan that he was pushing. Medicaid, I think it was Medicaid or Medicare, whichever one, for all. And he's like, well, we're just going to get people who don't have care. Let's just have them directly subsidized. Government will pay for it. It'll be government run entirely. It won't be part of a private marketplace. We'll just get them onto existing government programs. We'll just expand them completely. And they ran projections. And he's like, he never did it himself. He never commissioned a study to see what the overall cost would be. Now, he's coming out and saying that it's not so. But apparently it would cost twice our nation's actual GDP to implement such a program. Yeah, in order to keep that program solvent, it would cost more than the entire country actually makes. Our entire productivity could not pay for the program. This doesn't surprise me at all. Look, you have a double problem here. You would be attempting to directly subsidize a system that has become overly burdensomely expensive. The problem isn't the concept of subsidizing everyone's healthcare. It's subsidizing healthcare that is, it's massively expensive. The cost is in some cases 100 times what it should be on medical devices or procedures. Part of it is the educational system. Unlike in some countries that are, routinely mentioned by Sanders, in Australia or whatever, people have to basically sell house and home and enslave themselves and gobble up hundreds of thousands in debt to go to medical school. Well, therein lies a problem. Once they get out, you know how much money they have to make to be able to pay it back? Well, then obviously that drives the cost of things up. The hospitals have to pay a lot of doctors a hell of a lot of money. Hell, after 20 years, almost all of them will go into private practice and they'll make even more. Then it's all elective. Their clientele tends to be more wealthy. Some of them won't even take Medicaid patients. A lot of them won't. So, what you would end up with under Sanders' plan, I can tell you, because socialist countries fall into one of two categories when it comes to centrally controlled healthcare. You either get a very, very good system. It's squeaky clean, spotless. It's actually really, really good. But it's heavily throttled. In order to provide that level of care, it's significantly doled out. That way you have to wait a month for, some minor surgery. In which case people, if they're capable of paying, will generally go out of country. Canada has this problem. In Canada, they have a really good overall capability within the healthcare system. It's highly sophisticated, extremely technologically adept. But it is so heavily throttled because there are chronic shortages of doctors' time with regards to certain surgeries. Whoops, yeah, they might as well just go to the U.S. and not wait for 2 months to get that, your kidney stones removed or whatever. So it becomes a problem. The other possibility is that you have a very, very efficiently streamlined program. Think of some of the types of care you'd have in a Cuba, minus maybe, again, some of the shortages. Unfortunately, it's only basic care. It's like Venezuela. You can go, Venezuela, it's so heavily subsidized, anyone in Venezuela, even if they're living on a cent a day, can get the health care they need. The problem is that health care is shitty. The problem is it is only the most basic preventative care. It tends to suffer shortages. Now, the solution to our healthcare woes is very, very simple. The first is to get rid of the ACA, and I mean completely get rid of it, don't replace it. Write a separate bill with regards to healthcare companies and insurance for people with regards to pre-existing conditions. That can be handled separately. It would be a 2 or 3 page fucking law. Very, very simple. Eliminate the ACA otherwise entirely. Preserve that one kernel. Yes, it'll drive cost up, but it's humane. We're capable of paying for it, by the way, if you implement several other things. Number one. Why are there lines between states with regards to medical services? Why? Why is the healthcare market structured that way? It doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. Oh yeah, we can't give you insurance that's 10 cents cheaper a month because, you're in Kansas, we're in Nebraska. It's a big problem. No, there should be total interstate commerce with regards to this. 100% competition. Number 2, allow drug importation from other countries. Stop sheltering the pharma companies. Yeah, okay, they have to lay off some workers. At least now you can afford those medicines. Now, that same worker, they still have under our system, they might have that job and they can't even afford the fucking pills that they could otherwise get from Canada. People all the time drive up to Canada to fill prescriptions and drive back down. You have people who are like 80 years old, they're like, yeah, I need this medicine to live. I can't afford it here, but in Canada I sure can. One of the few things that they get right in the Canadian Socialist healthcare system. Well, this is a mixed model, more than ours is, but you get what I'm saying. Tort reform. Stop forcing doctors to carry millions of dollars in liability insurance and hospitals billions of dollars. It might be a little bit of a good thing. That sounds good. Trump actually did one thing at the executive level recently that does help a little bit, which is allowing people to take part in medical testing if they're terminal. I think, though, they should be able to voluntarily take part in testing. That you don't need to prevent people from taking part in potentially dangerous medical testing. You don't need that. All you need to do is make sure you have the simple consumer protection of knowing what they're getting injected into their body. All you need to do is make sure the pharma companies are telling them what's being put in them, what are the risks involved, potentially, etc. Fuck the FDA. Makes no sense. They're strangulating our healthcare system. Again, get government out of healthcare to the best of your ability. That would be a wonderful start now, wouldn't it? Yeah. Allow competition. Look, it's free market. Some people are like, well, capitalism is the problem. Where's the competition? You can't compete interstate. Other countries can't compete with regards to drug importation, certain medical devices, procedures and stuff. It doesn't make any sense. Our system's the opposite of capitalistic, and that's why it's expensive. It would be much better to inject as much free market into it as possible and directly subsidize then the very poorest among us. The cost would be so much lower that it would be easy to do so, number one, and most people right now who need subsidies wouldn't need them anymore because the cost would be so much lower. As far as catastrophic care and things like that, no, I believe that is the responsibility of private individuals. Basic care for kids, basic dental, preventative medicine, going in, oh yeah, by the way, you have, major heart valve defect that we wouldn't have found if we didn't use this fucking stethoscope. That should be covered, yeah, absolutely. But we can't do it right now, we can't afford it. Bernie Sanders' plan just takes a problematic system and turns it over to the government instead of to private businesses. Meaning that people like me, how high my taxes would have to be in order to pay for this? What would I be paying? A 50-60% tax rate just to subsidize other people's health care? It wouldn't be me using it. I'm a 30-year-old dude. I've stopped smoking. I eat healthy. I get decent exercise. Why the fuck should I have to pay for other people? It's okay, say that it sounds greedy. I don't fucking care. It's not your money. It's not your productivity. I pay for enough as is by already being a taxpayer and having to pay, a 5-figure total into the collective pot. Okay, that's fine, but no more. Because if you don't have capitalism in the system, it's going to cost a lot more. And again, it will end up one of those two extremes. It is either readily available but shitty, or it is really great but almost nobody can get in, like people will be dying in the waiting room. Which of the systems do you want? Neither. You don't have to have either of those systems. We had a functional healthcare system a la the 40s, 50s, and 60s in this country that was pretty damn good. In fact, it was the envy of the world. That's before the military-industrial complex created a million monopolistic systems within healthcare. It did the same thing that it does to military contracting that makes everything we buy from private companies through that expensive. Because they can charge whatever the hell they want. When they buy computers for the government, they charge twice as much because they can. Therein lies the problem. All the grants and contracts and stuff, strangulating our healthcare system creates a de facto monopoly. It's worse than a monopoly. It's like the big tech firms. It's not a monopoly, it's a trust. It's a trust, a bunch of non-competing entities that have their own little blocks within a non-competitive system. Foreign states can't compete in every manner. Unless someone goes to another country for certain elective surgeries or something like, well, I want facial surgery. I can pay 10 grand here. Or I can go to Mexico and pay 500. Yeah, I might get a massive staph infection, but, I don't have 10 grand right now. And I want my nose job, says, Michael Jackson's offspring or something any day now. No, we need to fix the healthcare system, yes, but the suggestions that Obama and Sanders and Clinton and all of these morons make, and in fact most of the Republicans do, let's not kid ourselves, will not actually work. Now, government doesn't want the system to improve. If the system improves, if it actually works, you don't need as much government to oversee it. If things are really efficient and streamlined, all these bureaucrats, they lose their jobs or part of their salaries. They're like, hey, we don't need you anymore. Bye, we're cutting your bureau or rolling it up elsewhere. We're cutting your pay because you don't need to do anything. Oh, shit. Well, yeah, no wonder bureaucrats don't want to adopt an actual more free market healthcare approach. Of course not. Interstate commerce, tort reform, allowing competition between states and overseas, that's the solution. Drop the cost massively, and all of a sudden, Bernie Sanders' proposal is no longer nearly as expensive. You don't need Medicaid for all. You don't need anything socialized like that. Most people will purchase private healthcare. I know I would. If it costs significantly less, yeah, I'd get a plan. Absolutely. It'd be like, well, it's a no-brainer. It doesn't cost much. The benefit outweighs the risks. You know, for a very small monthly fee, I'm making sure that I don't get fucked. Right now I'm thinking, as a 30-year-old guy who doesn't smoke, eats fairly decently, I'm in decent shape, I'm thinking, what are the odds of me in the next 5 to 10 years? Suffering a massive heart attack, getting hit by a car, whatever, fairly low, a couple percent. But the odds of me losing a bunch of money if I get into the healthcare market, you know what frightens me more? Here's what frightens me. Paul Ryan, you'll remember him? Remember when his proposal said, hey, now we're eliminating any mandate or anything, but if you do have health insurance and you cancel it, even if they have changed the cost or the terms causing you to want to cancel it, you have to pay. To a private entity, you are mandated for several years to continue paying as though you still had that insurance. So in other words, you're saying that, let's say I get a plan that's decent, it's costly, but you know, it's what I need, and I'm like, you know, fuck it, because I might get sick or, you know, injured or whatever. I'm like, I need to have health care. And then I say, well, all of a sudden they've upped the price 50%, I'm canceling. Oh no, you can't do that. You have to pay a proportion of that cost anyway. So for several years, you're saying I'd have to keep paying a private entity a bunch of money. No, I'd sue at that point. It'd be cheaper. I'd just not pay, and then I'd pay the lawyer instead. It'd be funny. A million people would end up doing that. That's the problem. You've monopolized the system and strangled it. Socialism is, as always, not the answer. That's about all. Peace out.